welcome back to another video. This is going to be my September wrap up of all the books I read in the month of September. I was doing Becca's Bookopoly, like a readathon throughout the month based on the Monopoly board game, and then each one has a certain prompt, and then I vlogged this whole reading journey in a playlist which you can find up there. I read 10 books in total, which I'm really happy about. I did really enjoy doing this readathon because I got to some books that I wasn't really planning on getting to for maybe quite a while, and ones that I did really enjoy. So yeah, first off, I read A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman, and it was translated from Swedish by Henning Ko. I ended up giving this 4.75 stars. First of all, when I was reading it from the beginning, I wasn't really jamming with the writing style, and that's why I didn't give it a full 5, is because there is a lot of repetition, especially of Uve's name. His name's on at least every 5 lines. And just some other things are a bit repetitive, but in total I did really enjoy this book. The basic plot line is Uwe, he loses his wife and his job, and then he's planning to commit suicide, but then his neighbors and other things put a stop to this, and lots of things happen, and yeah, and then he's talking about his childhood and thinking back and different characters and stuff. 100% Sonia was my favorite character. She was just so lovely. She was the epitome of just loveliness and just everything. Her attitude, and she was the one. I loved her. But yeah, and then literally every paragraph that goes by, I fall in love with Uwe more. He definitely starts off quite unlikable, his attitudes and persona, I guess, isn't the best. But over time he does you get to love him, and he's really real, really realistic, and the other characters most of them are really nice, and it's just, I really enjoyed this book. So yeah. Then the second book I read was a really it really surprised me, this book. This is Exciting Times by Nisha Dolan. I wanted to love this book so badly because the themes and the writing style and the likeness to my girl Sally Rooney, who I adore. So I thought I was gonna really enjoy this, but I didn't. I kind of hated reading this. I really did not like reading it. Yeah, basically the basic plot line is post-grad Ava moves, she's living in Hong Kong. She's teaching rich kids English. She has a relationship with a banker, Philip, Julian, and he buys her stuff, and she's questioning why do I let this, is it good or whatever, and then he goes to London for a few months, and then she becomes infatuated with a woman called Edith, and then they start a relationship. And yeah, if you want to know more, just read a spoiler review or whatever, but that's what I'm going to say. What I liked about it was that some of the writing, it was good. It was intellectually, it was good, and it was understandable mostly. There was some witty and funny bits that made me laugh out loud. There was some good some points that I take away, meaningful parts. But yeah, what I didn't like about it, and I have quite a few points. The first one wasn't on the writing. It is very pretentious, I feel, and it makes Sally Rooney's writing look subtle, and that is saying a lot. It's given big brain energy. It's given, I'm flexing my degree, I know big words, intellectual words that you might not know, I want to confuse you, and that isn't necessarily bad if you have this big brain energy, but I don't, and I don't feel like it's that accessible to a lot of people. And it was pretentious, really. Also, it has these sort of like the writing style ish of Sally Rooney's, where it's talking about like these like benign things that like, but they might like seem unimportant, but they are important to like the individual in like a smaller sense, and that sort of like ideology, which I can't really explain that well. It's like you have to like read it to understand it. But it has that sort of like writing style, but it doesn't have any like real like cusp or like shooting like impact that like Sally Rooney's books do have for me. So I was just like reading this like like gobbledygook sort of like stuff, but I wasn't getting anything from it. And yeah, the next point is that none of the characters are really likable or developed, or like they're all just like kind of shallow. Like, and there's a lot of repetition. Like Julian is mostly described as being like a banker, his whiteness, his richness, his like Oxford graduateness or whatever. And I just didn't like him. Ava is very meh. She's just Eva Edith is like probably the best, but still not really that good. I don't feel like they're like that developed, and it's a character based novel, so they do need to be either like developed quite well or lovable or like complex, and I didn't really get it from it. And also I feel that the bi slash pan slash I don't know what Ava sexuality is, and I don't necessarily have to label it, but basically someone that has intimate relationships with other genders, if you know what I mean. So I don't know what she is, but it's like a bi sort of pan realm. And I don't feel like that representation was like well put, because she's basically shown to be like cheating on these two people, and then it only comes out like by mistake. And that is like sort of like a big stereotype of like the bi community, that they cheat and stuff. And yeah, I didn't really feel like it was perpetuating quite a harmful stereotype, in my opinion. Also, the Asian rep I don't feel is very good, despite it being set in Hong Kong, where like basically like the children she teaches are like called like copycats in a way, and they're all this sort of like children of like Asian tiger mum sort of thing. Edith is also like an Asian tiger child, and her mum is an Asian tiger mum. That sort of like ideology, and like you don't really get many nuances, and there's a very very slight little detail on the like inter-Asian racism that is like quite prevalent in Hong Kong, where it's talking about Edith's mum, how she treats her like work like maid sort of woman, and she is probably Southeast Asia, not really treated that well, and this is like a big problem in Hong Kong, but it was just sort of just brushed over and just like slightly mentioned, but not like developed. And I didn't like it really. I feel like there was not very good representation, not very good takeaways, pretentious writing, unlikable and undeveloped characters, and it wasn't for me. I did not like this book, which is a really shame, because I did really really want to like it. So yeah. But anyway, also it just took me so long to get through, because I was just like, I do not care. Like, to bring back to the characters, it's not sort of like they're unlovable, like you hate them. It's more just like you don't care about them. So it's just getting through it was just hard. Anyhow, then I read Convenience Store Woman. Oh yeah, by the way, I gave this 2.25 stars. Not for me, but some takeaways. Yeah, I read Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This was translated from Japanese by Ginny Tapley Takmori. I ended up giving this 4.25 stars, I think. I did really enjoy this. It was such like a breath of fresh air from exciting times. it was just because it was like short, it was fast paced, it was like weird and like funny and like strange. But basically we follow a main character, Keiko, who is a self-proclaimed convenience store worker. It's like her life, it's like everything that's important to her, and her like struggles in society, and like how people like try to make her be normal, and like this sort of like questioning like what is normal, like how can she be normal, can she be fixed. And it's kind of like a refreshing take on like how people that are seen as unnormal are like othered from society and just, you know, made to feel like different, and that they need to become normal, but we don't know what normal is because it's just a made up thing. And yeah, I didn't like, she wasn't necessarily that lovable, but I did want her to stop being so like judged. I wanted good things to come her way. Also the rest of the other characters were not really like, I didn't really like them at all, especially Sahara, I think his name was. Like there is something like you do kind of like emphasize some things with him, but he's just a bit not for me. But it was still interesting reading his story and like the dynamics and stuff. So yeah, I did actually really enjoy this, and I would totally recommend it. Then the next book I read was Miguel Alice Oseman's Heartstopper Volume 4. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I could not possibly give it anything less. Wait for the bells. Come on. Thank you. This one was another phenomenal installment in the Heartstopper series. I have been trying to go through them like slowly because I mentioned this before, but I don't want to like rush through them all, but I did finally get to this. This one basically, the predominant storyline is about Charlie's like issues with his mental health and eating disorder, and like coming to terms with it, and like sort of like getting help, and how this like road to recovery is not straightforward. It's bumpy, it goes up and down, there's setbacks, but overall it is a forward trajectory. And it's also how like no matter how much you love someone and you want to help them and fix their issues, there's a point that you can't, because they need to do it themselves. And that's like a main like point from this. And yeah, I feel like it was handled exceptionally well, and like it's really like great to be showing like youth, especially like queer youth, like how to like sort of like get help and like deal with like these certain like issues that like people have. And it was just astonishing. Also other storylines is about like how like the big like I love you speech, like when's the time, like how does it happen and stuff. Also Nick coming out to his dad and like fully accepting himself. And then there was like more like things with like their friends, and a little like teachers mini comic which was so sweet. And it was just exceptional. Like these books are just so good. I absolutely adored this. I tried to get through it slowly, but I just couldn't, because it's just so phenomenal. And just this book, my heart was like, it was so warmed and it was broken. It was just everything about this book was just so good, so good. And then I read My Name Is Sei Shonagon by Jan Blensdorf. It's not translated fiction, but this I really enjoyed. I was so surprised because I was going to get to it sometime, but I didn't know like when. It was probably going to be quite far down the list, but because of the challenge I ended up reading it this month, and I'm so happy I did. And yeah, I ended up giving this 5 stars. I just said that. But I really enjoyed this. Basically, we follow an unnamed protagonist who, at the age of 7, she moves from America back to Japan with her Japanese mother after her American father dies. So she's like mixed. and then she's like, it's about like her childhood to adulthood, and how like she's sort of like made to feel like othered because she's not like American, she's not Japanese, and like she's like a like mixed, and like that storyline. And then also she is like in a room in like above like an incense shop, and then like lots of different people like come to like talk to her about like their problems, and she like tries to just like, she's just like there to listen and to sort of like give advice and like help a bit as well. And yeah, and then there's also a lot of like talk about like Japanese like mythology and like history and like customs, like different things that are also like intertwined with like a really like refreshing and insightful look at like contemporary Japan. And like an example of this is like how like she explores like the origins of like certain like kanji characters, and then links them directly to like contemporary like things that are happening. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was like so short, it was so like surprising because I didn't know I was gonna like this as much as I did. And yeah, there's like some tricky warnings, but I don't know, I feel like it's really good. And I don't want to like explain the plot too much because you need to develop your feelings yourself as the book goes along, because she's also like confused, in like a confusion state, and like the way she like goes through it is just like, you need to read it to understand it, you know. And then the next book I read, which was another 5-star read, I feel like I was gonna read this anyway this month without the challenge, because I needed this book in my life. This is Swimming in the Dark by Thomas Jodorowsky. 5 stars, 100%, literally one of my favourite books ever. Little plot summary is, it's a second person account. I think it's second person because it's like says like you and stuff, which I've never read before. But I really enjoyed this like writing style, because I thought it was going to be a bit strange, like how like it's a second person, like nothing's really ever second person. But I understood it like really well, and like you was inside their like head sort of vibe. I think it's second person. I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. But it's basically Ludwig, and he's thinking back to, no wait, he's talking about his like summer love, his first love, Janusz, and he is like kind of like shy and stuff, and Janusz is like more like outgoing, and they have like a really nice like a love like blossoms, and it's really heartwarming and lovely, but you know in your heart that it's not gonna end with them together. Like you can see it coming, and even though you can see it coming, it still hurts as much as if you didn't. And yeah, I just this book was so exceptionally good. It was so good. This is my first book I ever like used a pencil to underline, and like I don't really know if you can see, but I've got like quite a lot of ones that I actually underline because there's just like so many like takeaways from it. On my Goodreads and StoryGraph, I wrote a review that has like a lot of like quotes, because there were just so many amazing quotes, especially this one at the end. Let me quickly. And yet, it occurs to me now that we can never run with our lives indefinitely. Sooner or later, we are forced to confront their darkness. We can choose the when, not the if. And the longer we wait, the more painful and uncertain it will be. So good. Another one, little one. I could just talk about this book forever. Not one example of a happy couple made up of boys. How are we supposed to know what to do? Did we even believe that we deserve to get away with happiness? My heart. This book had my heart from the first page to the last. It was just at the biting point. So readable. It was so like, the writing is so like transportative and vivid, and like its description of like places and people and events is just so poetic, so like astonishing. But the main thing is the characters. The characters are just, oh my god, they're so developed. They're so, and it's not really the longest book. It's like 220 pages or something. But like there's like so much like nuance and development in and like character studies in it, and and Ludwig is just divine. I love him so much. I just want like all like the good things to come to him, and just for him to live a lovely like happy life. He is everything. And yeah, and there's just like, as a queer person, reading like these sort of things that he goes through are so relatable and so real, like about like internalized homophobia, about like we don't really have like a manual, like sort of like things about like queer love and stuff, like just like understanding things, and just I don't know, it was exceptional. Exceptional. 100% recommend that book. And then the next book I read was one that I didn't like. I wasn't planning to like read like. I don't know when I was gonna get to it, because it's not even mine. It's my sister's, but it was like in the house. And that was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I ended up giving this 4.75 stars. It's not the whole thing. The other side is Black Beauty, by the way. It's not that long. It's like 130 pages, I think. And there's like pictures. It might be a bit longer, like some ones. But I loved this book. Oh my god! I did not realize it was so like funny, and like it was such a surprise. Because I wasn't expecting to like literally laugh out loud in this book so many times, and it was so like, it just like pulled you in and addictive, and I read it in one whole sitting. I loved it. If you don't know the story, I feel like most people do, but there's basically a little girl called Alice. She follows a white rabbit into a rabbit hole. She falls down it. She goes into Wonderland, and then she just has an adventure. She meets lots of like weird, funny, mad characters, and they're all pretty obtrusive and not the most like welcoming, but they're all like, I don't know, I felt like the characters were like good, like I liked them in a way, and it was like it was just really funny. I did not realize it was going to be this funny, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. Yeah. Totally recommend. If you're thinking about reading it, I would say recommend, because it was a really good book. We're nearly at the end. We've got 3 more left. Next book I read was No Good Deed by Goldie Moldavsky. This I gave, what did I give it? I gave it like 3 stars, I think. I think, yeah, just a straight 3 stars. I wouldn't really recommend this book, to be honest. It was pretty meh. It was average. It was there. It was a book. It was bloated in a way, even though it's not long. And it's YA, but I'm getting this sense of YA books. I'm only gonna read short YA books, or YA books that like have like a plot, or like characters that I'm really like invested in, because otherwise I just feel like a lot of ones I've read recently have been just kind of like bloated and just like repetitive, and it was the same with this. Like a lot of it's just rehashing sort of like similar like conversations and ideas and stuff, and I wasn't really here for it. But basically we follow our main character Gregor, who goes to Camp Save the World, which is a summer camp. And as soon as he gets there, things are just like kind of weird. All like these, like all the other like children, teenagers, whatever, are there, have their own like campaign of something that they want to like save the world. Like his is like to do like feeding children, and his other one's about like down with hunger, like men's rights. And then there's like a celebrity there who he doesn't really like, called Ashley Woodstone, and she's like, eat dirt to like end hunger, and it's just kind of like weird. And then there's like sabotage that goes on, and it's all like a friendship like blossoms between him and the Ashley woman. Yeah, the characters are all like pretty meh, not really that likable. Some are like made to be unlikable, which I got the sense. Like Men's Rights, for example. I did not like him at all. And it's like a parody sort of like idea on this sort of like save the world generation and like sort of like Gen Z sort of things about how they all have, like, you can understand their reasoning for their like campaigns and stuff, but they also at the same time like contradict themselves and each other, and like especially with like the sabotaging and stuff, because they all trying to get like an internship with like the philanthropist guy that's like running the camp. And yeah, so this is sort of like a good like nuanced like take on like this sort of like ideologies about like saving the world sort of thing. And like it was sort of like making fun but also not at the same time. Like you sort of like understood them, but you did kind of get this like, I don't know, it was nuanced. Yeah, I wouldn't really recommend this book. It was alright, it wasn't really the one. And then like the final like point, a part of it is about like how like you should like look at like the little things, and like it's nothing new, like I've like heard this like a million times. And I just feel like lots of other books sort of like give like some of the messages a lot better, but I mean for a YA audience it was okay, I guess. But yeah, wouldn't really recommend that. 3 stars. And then I read probably the worst book I've ever read since, although I probably would say Paper Ghost is worse than this just because it's like 3 times the length or whatever. But this was Bleachers by John Grisham. This is basically about a main character, Neely Crankshaw or something. He goes back to his like his old like small town in like America, to await the passing of their old coach Eddie Rake. And like he talks with like other like residents and like other like players and stuff on like the football field, American football. Because that's like I got a certain emotion with that, and I was like, that's the only thing that would really fit it. And yeah, and then they sort of like reminisce on like the old times, and then yeah, and this Eddie Rake guy is like very like love or hate, like he's like divided like the community, because he's like not really like a nice person, but like he also like everyone's like, oh, even if you love or hate him, he was great, like he was like a godlike figure in his town. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't really like the certain like messages it was pushing. It wasn't like really that like put forward very good or like well. I didn't like any of the characters. There's a large lack of like a female voice in this. There are female characters, but it's like very, very male centric. Yeah, and there's a lot of just like it's acceptance of mistreat, which I just didn't sit right with me. Also, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Oh, it's on my brain. Oh my god. So advice book I wanted to say. Oh, the writing style is like, it just wasn't the one. And it's not like, you can't really get into it as well, because they're all sort of like reminiscing on memories, and there's not like any like in the moment like action. It's just like thinking back, and you know, like it wasn't like transportative at all. Like you were just kind of like reading this like blah, 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 blah. So I did not like this book. I think I gave it like 1.75 stars. It may be like even like less than that. But yeah, I would not recommend this book at all. But I also like, I went in with low expectations, and it surprised me by being worse. It underwhelmed. But I feel like it's just because the themes and stuff isn't really something that I'm like interested in or can like relate to. But if some people do find like comfort and relatability in like these stories, then that is like good. It's just I did not like it. I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the character, I didn't like the messages. Didn't like it. The only saving grace was that it was like short, even though I did kind of like skim quite a lot of it. And then the final book I read this month, I don't actually have with me because I borrowed it from my sister when she came down to see us, and that is the manga, I think it's like in 2 parts, but it was like one big one, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas by Yoru Samino, and it was translated from Japanese, but I can't remember who it was by. I said it in the last vlog in the playlist, but this is basically about 2 like Japanese high schoolers. The first one is Haruki, who is very like socially awkward and socially anxious. He doesn't really have many friends, he doesn't really like do much, and he finds the diary of Sakura's journal where she says that she's dying of pancreatic cancer, and then he is the only one that knows apart from her family, and she doesn't like really want to tell anyone. So they sort of like become like, they sort of like get a bond, and like they go like on adventures and stuff, and it turns out to be like something that they both really like needed. And it is so lovely to like see this like relationship, like friendship relationship develop, and it's so like heartwarming, but also like so bittersweet, because the book starts with like him not going to her funeral, so you know she dies, but there's like a plot twist that I did not see coming at all, so that like shocked me. I was like, okay, and there's some like parts of it, but yeah, I won't say any more like of the plot because you need to sort of like experience it, but I did really enjoy it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. The characters are like super lovable, they're so like sweet as well, and like the like the like art style like reinforces this like cuteness, and they're just like so sweet, and like the drawings, like they really like express like their emotions and like feelings that are done like really well, and yeah, so I like really enjoyed this. It was my first ever manga, and I will definitely reading some more. So yeah, so they were all the books I read this month. I thought I'd do a quick like little like ranking of them because I want to. The worst by then Exciting Times, No Thank You, No Good Deed, not the one, then probably Convenience Store Woman, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Man Called Ove, then probably My Name Is Sei Shonagon, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, they both get the top spot. I can't choose. Maybe Heartstopper was a bit better. Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably go Swim in the Dark, then Heartstopper Volume 4. But I am so happy that about the majority of the books I read this month, I got through quite a lot, which I was so happy about. And I really enjoyed doing this challenge. So if you did want to like see any of the reading vlogs, you can check the playlist I linked. And yeah, I hope you have a fruitful October reading month. This is like the day 6, and I've already read 4 books, and I'm like 40% through my like 5th, so I'm on a roll already. I'm so happy about like the way I've started this month. So yep, I hope to see you soon and have a nice day. Bye bye.